here we go. I'm going to turn to Letitia Redhouse. Over to you to kickstart this webinar, please.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly and Luminary friends. We're really excited that we were able to partner and share and highlight the amazing work that producers and value add producers add, or companies add to the kind of building of food economies in tribal communities. We invited 4 different producers. Zachariah Ben, he's the owner of Biddy Baby Foods and a 5th-generation farmer out from Shubuck, New Mexico. We also have Brittany Beck, again, Bow and Arrow. They are a mill company. They specialize in blue corn and yellow corn mill. We also have Cindy Convery. She's the owner of Pure Wild Company, and they have a collagen drink that they developed, and they are just booming and growing in that business. And then we have Dan Cornelius. He's the IAC's technical assistant specialist, owner of Yoella Farms, and a huge partner in the Tribal Elder Food Box program, which we want to really highlight and share with you kind of what is accomplishable when we all work together. But we can kick off with, I do see that Brittany Beck is on, so we can go ahead and kick off with Brittany to share her journey and success as an ag entrepreneur.
Thanks, Latasha. Thank you everyone for joining. As she said, my name is Brittany Beck, and I'm filling in for Simon Martinez, who is unable to make it today. Simon's not only the general manager for the Ute Mountain Ute Tribes Farm and Ranch Enterprise and Bow and Arrow Brand Corn Mill, but he also sits on the Colorado State Ag Commission Board and is in meetings today. So without further ado, I'll talk a little bit about Bow and Arrow Brand's journey and successes, along with the work that we've been able to do with IAC and the American Indian Foods Program. Bow and Arrow Brand is located on the Ute Mountain Ute Reservation in Southwest Colorado. It was created in 2014 as a vision to create jobs and economic opportunity, as well as vertically integrate the successful corn farming operation that was already in existence there on the farm. The corn mill processes non-GMO corn that is grown on the farm's 7,700 irrigated acres. And the main products or ingredients that are produced consist of cleaned whole corn, corn meals, and corn flours of varying granulations. These are available in blue, white, or yellow varieties. And all of the products are non-GMO, project verified, kosher, certified gluten-free, and of course, they wear the made and produced by American Indians trademark on the packaging. The market sectors purchasing these products are retail, which is the 24-ounce bags, commercial food and beverage manufacturing, who uses 50-pound and bulk truckload quantities, and then the food service industry using 25-pound bags. In the retail area, we're currently selling 24-ounce bags online, direct to consumer, and have also distributed to a lot of local and regional grocery stores. We're currently working with a major regional grocery retailer to get into a particular line of natural grocery stores. So until that's official, I can't give out too many details, but be on the lookout for an announcement when that happens. The commercial food and beverage sector has allowed us to expand into snack food manufacturing areas, tortillerias and chip manufacturers, and as well as the distillery market. The food service arena lets us reach chefs all across the country. Working with the American Indian Foods Program and the Intertribal Ag Council has allowed us to begin exploring the export market, which we're just in the beginning stages of with our brand. We're still pretty young, but we're definitely looking to do that in the near future. And the program has also gained bow and arrow exposure nationally and internationally to other communities and entities that has helped to bring business opportunities and increase sales by further promoting and marketing our brand. And if you'd like to learn more about Bow and Arrow, you can visit our website at www.bowandarrowbrand.com, and that's all spelled out, no ampersand. Any questions?
I have a question. Sure. Even though I'm also presenting too, but how are you guys doing your distribution?
So we have recently gotten in with a distributor in the Denver metro area. We're breaking into the grocery sector once again. So feet on the ground, just connecting, being involved with the organizations, word of mouth, and trying to connect with everybody that we're meeting is how we've done that. The commercial food and beverage arenas, again, that's mostly local, and I would say within a 8-hour radius of us all around. So we've done cold calling, we've connecting with other people who are well connected, and just reaching out to people that we think that our product could be a great fit for.
Oh, well, maybe we should exchange emails because of the native certifications I have and the groups I've been, involved with on the native level. I've gotten some really good distribution, nationwide.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'd love to share that with you.
Great.
That's
Do
great.
you save your own
Thank you.
seed or do you buy hybrid seed?
We buy hybrid seed. That's bred to do well in our elevation climate.
So even the blue corn and the black corn and stuff, you were able to get hybrids of those?
Well, the white and yellow corn we buy from a seed distributor, but we actually own all of the genetics for our blue corn.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Letitia, maybe we could go on to the next speaker. We'll leave time at the very end for questions more generally, but I don't want to lose time here on great questions and still allow people to present there. So.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. And I would encourage, if you do have questions, to enter them into the chat space, and then we can revisit those questions as well. But thank you so much, Brittany. We're going to move on to Zach from Bitty Baby Foods. And I'm just going to share my screen so I can share his presentation.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Or
Morning.
afternoon in some places. So yeah, she Zachariah Ben Yanishia, yeah, idina Anishla. Ozeta Chini Bashachin, Kintlachini Dashache, Ashihan Dashanala. My name is Zachariah Ben. I am of the Navajo tribe. I was born and raised in Shiprock, New Mexico. May I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'm just gonna go straight in. So here's a little bit of background about Ben Farms, which is a family collective. So we've been farming for, about 5 generations now. We're the 5th generation, and our son now is a 6th generation farmer. So we've been managing land in the Shiprock area for about, just doing remediation, revitalizations of the land now currently. So using traditional methods, mixing that with modern methods of farming. We don't use any type of herbicides, no hybrid seeds. These are all heritage seeds that are passed down from generations to generations. No pesticides. And so a lot of that is, again, just using those traditional techniques and implementing modern techniques of uses of, drip irrigation, to using tractors to cultivate and to also help with the herbicides to keep the weeds down in the land. So from that to engaging recently in mutual aid work. So that's just a background of who we are as a family of Ben Farms. So next slide, please. So for our product, what we do is it's an added value product. So we go ahead and we plant out the Navajo white corn. Again, it's a heritage seed. And so for us, we use that to create a Navajo dried steamed corn. So at the harvest time, we dig these 10 feet deep by 4 foot wide steam pits, as you can see in the picture. We go out and we harvest by the truckloads. It's a very labor intensive work because we do all of this by hand. We build a fire in that pit, starting for a good 12 hours fire, just roaring hot. And we use the trees from the revitalized land and taking down those invasive species, and then using that as firewood, as our fuel to cook the foods. So we put the corn in the pit at the end of the day. By now, the corn has simmered down to some hot charcoals. Cover it with a plywood board using mud as an adhesive, add water, and then completely seal it off and have that cook for 12 hours straight. So it turns into a big pressure steam cooker underground. And again, this is using our traditional methods rather than using modern methods of like an adobe oven that's above ground cooking. And then so for that, it's again just being able to have that connection to the land and using those natural resources that surround us. Next slide, please. Thank you. And out of that added value process, another added value to that was we continued on into turning that nishjiji, which is dried steamed corn, turning that into a baby cereal. So in Navajo, that translates to the nishjiji bitkatni is Navajo dried steamed corn cereal. And we have different products of using Cushaw squash, which is nayeze in Navajo. What we do is we slice up the squash, we dehydrate it, break it down into smaller pieces, and then add that to our cereal. And we have more products forthcoming. We have sumac. We're going to have that here pretty soon, sumac berry. We pulverize that and make that also into like a cream of wheat, and then amaranth, and then some more coming down the line. So we're really excited to be able to create new products as we are still marketing the OG, the original Bitty Baby Foods. So next slide, please. Thank you. So for ourselves, agriculture cooperatives, not only are we registered as an LLC on the Navajo Nation, we also, in the same application, we said that we wanted to be a cooperative. So that allows more of a social entrepreneurship rather than an individual. So in a sense, it's a mutual benefit from ourselves to the community and the community to ourselves, and being able to donate not only just the knowledge, but also products that our people can use. And those are providing nutritional education and to instill and to code our babies at a very young age to say, this is your food and this is what you can be nourished by. So with that becomes a vision of traditional indigenous foods are plentiful and accessible in early childhood and beyond. So this is more of a preventive measure rather than something where, we're building a program that is more of just trying to put out the flame while it is already going. This is, putting out the fire before it even begins. So our mission is to reconnect indigenous families with our long-standing relationship between earth and parenting. We believe that there is direct connection between nurturing the land and nurturing our children. By understanding how to grow traditional crops and preparing them for young children, we are actively dismantling systems of oppression and rebuilding indigenous foodways. So that is our mission. Next slide, please. So the inspiration came from the birth of our son. He's our inspiration for a lot of things now as parents, and not only that, but also social advocates, community advocates, and parenting advocates. Being able to show our child that we have that voice, we can use that voice, and showing other parents in our communities and to model that, and to also to be that example, not only just in our food culture, but also our social culture. And again, that's because of the advocacy work and being able to, rather than using processed foods and preservatives, but being able to share and to feed our child food that we've grown from our own lands, using our own natural resources. So through that, we experience these challenges while accessing the prenatal care and pediatric care. For example, we were introduced to Infamil, which was a nutritional additive because my wife was breastfeeding exclusively. So they said, oh, your child might lack these type of nutrients. And then we also told the pediatrician that, our son is actually eating these traditional foods. And there became the stigmatism of, oh, you shouldn't be using, foods that are grown off these lands because they are contaminated with uranium. They're contaminated with heavy metals. the water is not clean. And so for ourselves as BD Baby Foods as a business, yes, we go out and we get our soil tested, we get our water tested, and those were things of being able to share that knowledge and educate not only just our community but also our providers. So we want to continue to support and inspire other families to breastfeed and feed their babies and young children traditional foods rather than, again, processed foods, foods that are not familiar with our people. So next slide, please. So our accomplishments for last year, even though it was just our first year of being a legitimate business, we fed our baby breast milk and homegrown traditional foods for the first year of their life, which was a beautiful experience being that to be able to provide as a paternal role, and of course the maternal role as well, and how we had that equitable approach just as parents and as a family. So we established our LLC and also as an ag cooperative on the Navajo Nation rather than within the state of New Mexico. We created a website for online sales. We sold, oh my gosh, 1.5 tons of product. And so with that, we've actually are going to be tripling that amount this year of yieldage. So that's how much it allowed us to grow from last year, and knowing to be able to have that confidence and understanding that data so we can move forward into providing more a yieldage off of our farm, so that way we can continue to network and market our product. We sold in bulk, also in wholesale to public health organizations and also mutual aid organizations on and off the reservation. So there's some of our examples: John Hopkins, Native Health Phoenix, which is an IHS, Gallup Food Pantry, and Detbekeya, which is an Apache reservation farm and community. Again, like I said, just establishing those networks and markets on and off the reservation. Establish a strong social media following on Instagram, so that allows us to network with other organizations and, of course, to continue to share that knowledge of the BD Baby Foods and then that nutritional education. So, next slide, please. The Ben Initiative is our nonprofit organization that we're going to be establishing here this year. So we're very excited about it. And again, that just goes in parallel with our business and our mission. So we want to continue that to have that social entrepreneurship rather than an individual one. So starting from the birth, being able to understand the connection that we have within each other and providing that support for each other, most importantly. From that to the environment, using our natural resources to sustain and to educate and to further, I guess, in a sense, remain resilient and adapt to our current environments that we're growing in. And of course, nutrition, whether it be through the food itself or knowledge, and continuing that on, using the knowledge of our past, using that of our ancestors, using that here today, and then continuing that on into the future. So that's what we plan to do as the Ben Initiative, which is going to soon be our nonprofit organization. Next slide, please. So that concludes our quick presentation. We were trying to compact this down into the 10 minutes that were allotted. So thank you so much for having us, and sincerely, and I believe I hope we have time for questions. If not, then I'll see if I can collect people's emails and we can chat up something. But that's who we are.
Great. Thank you so much, Zach. I think what we're going to do is move on to the next presenter, and then we'll save questions for the end. I'm just going to share my screen real quick to highlight Dan Cornelius. He's my colleague with the Intertribal Agriculture Council, but he's also a member of the American Indian Foods Program. So let me just go ahead and share my site. He sent over a pre-recording as he's out in the field. So 1 second.
regenerative tribal agricultural economies. Opening slide here, this is a picture of a project that we started about 10 years ago with the Intertribal Ag Council of a mobile farmers market. We actually received funding from USDA's Ag Marketing Service to be able to get this going. And really what it did was it helped to build capacity, connection, to be able to promote our products at an intertribal level, reconnect tribal trade routes, and really support smaller producers who, definitely weren't ready for export markets, or maybe even some that were, but just to be able to bring all those products together. So you see a bit of a glimpse of it here. And, these efforts have really evolved in the past 2-3 years to now we're looking at more of the farm to community, the farm to institution, really farm to community approach. And that's some of what I'm going to be talking about here today. So as we're getting started with this discussion, I think it's important to ask and to think about what is the tribal ag and food economy. According to USDA, we've got over 80,000 Native American farmers, ranchers doing $3.5 billion in sales. We also have a $150 million food distribution program on Indian reservations. But, really, where do our communities get food? At the retail level, grocery stores, what do we have for food service within our communities? I know, a lot of our communities are going to have some sort of a restaurant, if they've got a gaming operation. But, part of asking this question is thinking about what are our overall tribal food economies and what food is produced locally. How can we keep more of that food produced in our communities right within our communities? The challenge is just looking at one region that's one of our bigger ag regions, Rocky Mountain. You can see that we have only about 1/5 of on-reservation agricultural sales are coming from Native producers, meaning 4/5 of our on-reservation sales are coming from non-Native growers and agricultural producers. Another challenge, this is 2012 numbers, the 2017 USDA Ag Census. Native farmers ranchers are a little bit more in line, at least a little bit closer to the average, but you can see for many years, we were, this was $3,000 less per producer on average of government payments they were getting. So that's a lot of what our work is with our technical assistance network, with IAC, is trying to address that. But right now, USDA has several great programs that are open to support local food efforts. And I'd encourage people to look at these. But looking at these pilot food distribution efforts, going back 2 years when we had empty store shelves, what did our producers face 2 years ago? IAC did a poll, did a survey, and these were some of the highlights that we had of what resources do producers want: financing, funding options, market support. 96% of our producers do not sell directly to customers. So that was a big part of the results that we had, is shortening supply chains. And within the context of the pandemic and where we've been over the past 2 years, going from those empty store shelves to then we had a flood of food coming into a lot of our communities, of semi-trucks of the USDA food boxes, of full semi-trucks of milk. And I know for a lot of communities, I think that the food was appreciated, but there's high levels of lactose intolerance. And so I really asked the question, if we could put our own food program together, what would it be? What would it look like? One of my friends, Greg Johnson, he had done this seasonal harvest calendar, and this for him, for his tribe, this is the food system. How can we do more to incorporate this into into really feeding our communities and thinking about at least what do our communities want? So in that light, we were able to start tribal elder food box program with funding from Feeding America last year. We put out 900 boxes every other week for a total of almost 11,000. 86% of the nearly $428,000 for that program went directly to food purchases. Well, that's not including a lot of the in-kind staff support that was really necessary to make the effort work, but an average of just under $41 per box. Here's a map of, these are some of our participating tribes, indigenous producers, local producers for last year. I will mention, out of, so 86% of the funding going to food, 41% of those food purchases were from tribal producers, and that we put a priority of trying to reach out and recruit as many tribal producers as we could. You can see here one of those products. We got whitefish coming from Red Lake. We partnered with the Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative to do the distribution, and it was really great to have that cold storage warehouse. And Feeding Wisconsin was one of our main partners on this effort. They were the Feeding America affiliate that was able to secure the funds. So where did the product come from? We had carrots, potatoes that came from Ziba Majoring Farm up at Little Travers. And then we sent boxes back over to them. We had lettuce, aquaponic lettuce coming from Forest County, Potawatomi, as well as some meat, and then a fish from the Red Cliff Fish Company. One of our challenges is we didn't have, the funds were limited to perishable items. So we hosted a fundraising dinner at my farm, and we were able to raise enough money to buy wild rice to get into to a distribution for the full program. That wild rice coming from Spirit Lake Native Farms, Bruce and Tawny Savage up at Fond du Lac. And an important thing on this is, what did our recipients think? What did they want? And so we, really throughout the process, we're trying to check in and really be responsive of what people wanted. And then we did a survey at the end, and you can see of just where some of that priority is for this next year. Right now, we've been able to secure 1.3 million for this year, $1 million coming from Feeding Wisconsin, or through Feeding Wisconsin, from Wisconsin Ag Department funds of ARPA funds the state received. And then we've got 300,000 coming from Feeding America. We are looking to do 1,800 boxes twice a month, so 3,600 boxes every month. So it's a lot of product. But coming back to, if you're interested in these type of efforts, what's out there to support it? Right now, Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement from USDA, or you just call it LFPA for short. State and tribal governments are able to apply. Deadline is May 6th for those. And then several programs you can see through USDA, both Ag Marketing Service and Rural Development. So thank you. I will conclude and be available for questions.
Great, and I think I missed the introduction. That was Daniel Cornelius with the IAC Technical Assistance Specialist out in the Great Lakes region. He also is the owner of Uella Farms. And just, I really wanted to highlight kind of how producers here in the US are banding together to create just access to foods, traditional foods within their community. So next we have Cindy Convey, who will be presenting and sharing her organization or her enterprise or entrepreneur through Pure Wild Company.
Hey, thanks, Latasha. So I'm Cindy Convery. I'm Choctaw Native through my mother, who is 4th generation in Southeast Oklahoma. And in June 2020, I launched my company into retail markets. Pure Wild is a functional beverage. I wouldn't call it a traditional native food. It's an organic juice, wild marine collagen, which is a mega trend in food and beverage right now. And, only 5 ingredients per bottle. So it's a clean label product. But the reason why my company has been successful is the involvement in the intertribal agriculture, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Native American certifications, and just sort of being on the other side of traditional native food, which means clean, organic, certified non-GMO. Both the Chickasaw and the Choctaw tribes of Oklahoma, which are the two biggest tribes in the state, are very involved in clean eating and encouraging higher quality food consumption within the tribes. So they're starting big new programs. In 2 years, my company's gone from launching in our local retail grocery store in my town of 8,500 people. It's the top selling drink in my local grocery store, and they actually invested in the company. So that was pretty shocking. But I was able to grow the company because I qualified for a loan through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They have a loan guarantee program for new companies that are Native owned. So that helped us to grow. We're now selling in just under 2 years, we're selling in 30 states. We have national distribution through KeHE and UNFI. We're in hotels, we're in spas, we're in some doctor's offices, wellness offices. And we're launching a monthly box subscription of collagen and vitamin C supplements that are specifically designed for women with breast cancer, lupus, and autoimmune disease. For every subscription we sell, or every 3 subscriptions we sell, we'll give a subscription to a woman in need. And I'm working with Native American organization to identify Native women because they're the first to be last to be diagnosed with breast cancer. They're very much on the bottom of the list there. It's a bad scene. So we're going to support that. But it's been one connection to another with the Native groups that have grown my company so quickly in 2 years. First, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, then a Choctaw certification as a Choctaw preferred supplier. Then I found some other Native-owned brands, and I saw that they were part of American Indian Made. So I contacted Tommy Peterson and immediately was welcomed into that group. Tommy and Latasha are amazing because they just get it done. They do anything. And they invited me to join their trade shows. They paid for us to be at Expo West. These are expensive trade shows, and running any kind of production is a very expensive process. So they've also been very supportive of trade shows that I've found. There's a military trade show sponsored by the Chickasaw tribe in Oklahoma in August about selling into Air Force bases and native products going into the Air Force and military. So they have offered to, look into that and support that for other Native brands that are part of the intertribal agriculture. So, this isn't like the most polished presentation with pictures of the products, but it is a little story of how I was able to create something in my kitchen, put it in my local grocery store, go into production. I'm based in California because that's where a non-GMO co-packer that does these type of drinks is. We have an office in Oklahoma as well. But with the help of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, with the Choctaw Nation, with Intertribal Ag, and these groups, this company has grown 10 times in under 2 years. It's pretty shocking. So that's what I've got. And hopefully you guys will look it up. It's purewildco.com. We're launching the supplements, as I said, and we bottled the first ever collagen infused wine. So we have a Chardonnay and a Rosé as well. It's really fun.
Great. Thank you so much, Cindy. And that's the last of our presenters. Cindy's collagen drinks really helped during our two-week stay in Dubai for a trade mission. I think we were losing a little bit of energy there, so it was nice to fall back on some collagen drink to up the nutrients and whatnot. But I will go ahead and let Craig or one of our friends from Luminary take over and maybe bring up any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. And, I appreciate all the presentations made by Cindy and Dan and Brittany and Zach. As I listened, I was just struck by the business acumen and the very clear presentations that we got on the segmentation of the markets that all of the groups are servicing. The strong connections, obviously, with the American Indian Foods Program and the value that offers in terms of the certification, technical and marketing support. And I think it need be said, of course, that in all cases, there's a strong connection between the business and the economics of what you do and the well-being aspects from a sort of more cultural perspective. So I really enjoyed that. I'll turn it over for questions from anybody in the audience now, but I just want to thank the presenters very, very much for great stories and just wish them all continued success. Any questions?
I have a question for Ben. The baby food, it seems, I mean, the process is very elaborate and small scale, and it would seem that baby food would end up being really expensive, and yet a lot of your potential users probably don't have a lot of income to spend on baby food. How do you reconcile the cost of the food or the price of the baby food with potential customers you're trying to target?
Yes, that's a really good question. For us, what we do is well, I guess in a sense, like we have I'm trying to look it up really quickly so that way I can be very clear on this question. But I guess I can't find it right now, but to not be so clear, but to really be more elaborate, what we do is we sell 8 ounces at $10 a bag. So that is for our low income families, and that is like direct to consumer. So when we market it and we set up shop, for example, we set up a stand at a farmer's market or a flea market that is located on the reservation, we intentionally bring our prices down in order to alleviate that financial pressure on our families. So when we go from that to understanding more established families, for example, like if you were to buy on the internet, of course, when you have that e-commerce, that means you have the luxury of having a bank account and of course using those funds to pay for shipping and handling. So because of that, our prices are slightly increased to $12 for 8 ounces, plus shipping and handling. So we understood that. And then from there, we thought, why don't we go even further? So we've applied for and got approved to be SNAP and WIC partners for Navajo Nation and the state of New Mexico. So that people can bring their WIC cards or their EBT, and they can buy directly from us using those benefits. So we've actually have been looking and in a sense, and that's just one of our ways of being a social entrepreneur, is being able to provide those benefits and services and convenience to our customers.
There was a question from Jamie, by the way, just if you could explain the acronyms that you use there, just for people in Canada, they may not be so conversant.
Right. So WIC is a special supplement nutrition program for women, infants, and children. That is WIC, and that is for the state of New Mexico. And SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So it provides nutrition benefits to supplement the food budget of needy families so they can purchase healthy food. And then EBT is the electronic benefits transfer. So that uses an electronic system that allows for the consumer to pay using a card rather than a check, that is a handwritten check that says WIC can pay for these. So EBT allows them to purchase directly from us, and we would have like a little card reader for them. So we're getting all of that assistance. And again, just being more convenient and allowing our product to expand into those markets that are, of course, familiar and non-familiar. So that's just one of our ways of marketing our Bitty Baby food.
That's great.
So how much would 8 ounces feed? I mean, how long? I know you dilute it and things. How many meals would you get out of 8 ounces?
Oh man, you would get probably, well, for babies, especially as an introductory food for babies, that can provide, gosh, around a week's worth of food for them. Especially, we do have recipes. If you were to check out our social media, we do have recipes where you can combine it with other purees. For example, mashing in sweet potatoes, carrots, apples, and then some Bitty Baby food to provide, again, just that vast option of nutrition readily available. So those are the types of recipes that we recommend mixing in the Bitty Baby foods with. So you can get anywhere from a week's supply to 2 weeks supply off of one bag, depending on how you mix it in or directly feed your infant.
That's great.
And of course we do. Yeah, and of course we do have bigger bags to sell. To adults, we have just the non-milled version of the
ALSC, British Columbia, Canada. Let's see. Well, great to hear this presentation about corn. I developed a taste for grits when I lived in Atlanta and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And back in the previous century, moved north in 2001. But right now I buy a lot of Bob's Red Mill yellow corn grits and their masa harina. And I'm just teaching my 4- and 6-year-old how to make tortillas. So I'm wondering, how can we get your products, these corn products that you're making up here across that colonial border to the northern part of Turtle Island? And, obviously it's sort of a rhetorical question for the whole group, but it'd be something as, intertribal trade of some sort. So I just want to throw that out there as something maybe that we can, sort of as a comment, sort of a big question, but just a comment that people think about.
Thank you. Any comments from any of the producers on that question, or from Letitia?
I agree. I think we've been trying to develop this indigenous to indigenous type of trade. We will be at CL Canada next week. So if you are in Montreal and you want to visit, we definitely invite you to stop by our booth. But we are looking at exploring what those opportunities are. And, just really would love to get some of our US foods over to our Canadian friends. So yeah, we will keep you updated.
If I may, I have a question as well, perhaps more to the Canadian people that are on the line. We see what great support is being offered through the program in the States. And we see the responsiveness from the producers who are really developing some wonderful businesses. So I'm wondering if there are comments from people that might see how such an organization could be developed in Canada to help some of the producers here, and whether you would think that that's a good idea, and what kinds of benefits do you see this offering?
I think it's a great idea, just trade shows, for example, it's very expensive to go to many trade shows, but if you have 5 or 10 or 20, groups or foods or companies that you represent, it really cuts down the cost. And, you're exposing yourself to many more people. And each producer may still be pretty small, but at least, if they go together, you can then have a trade booth, and it, gets the ball started rolling down the hill.
Yeah, thanks, Alvin.
I have a comment on that.
Sure.
Greg.
Please do.
This is Zach Van. It's very interesting because, there's a lot of tribes up in the northern areas, and that's our northern brothers and sisters. There's actually a Diné tribes up there, but theirs is called Diné rather than Diné. So we call them our early settlers compared to us down here lower southern is, we continued on the migration. So our dialects are very similar. But the point to that is we're working with a doctor, Dr. Kevin Lewis. He's Saskatchewan, and he's a founder and managing director of Kanayisik culture camps based out of Alberta, Canada. And I'll put that down in the chat. But yeah, since he has culture camps, what they do is they revitalize culture hunting, being able to skin an animal and do that all in the field, dress the animal, and canoeing, just vast types of knowledge there. And of course, and that's to remediate and revitalize their language and culture. So that's on the Saskatchewan sides of things. So he reached out. We actually did a culture exchange. He came down to New Mexico, and we went up to Saskatchewan and just had that cultural exchange, and then we exchanged seeds. So we do plan to continue that relationship here in the this season. And he's going to be planting Navajo white corn up there, and we're going to be planting some of their grass down here. So I'm sorry, I forget the exact grass that he's sending, but I'll get back to you on that. But that's just the relationship and partnerships that we're not without the borders being in the way, an obstacle. So.
Yeah.
Zach, it's Kelly here, Kelly Lindsay. I thought I heard you say Fond du Lac. Were you referencing Fond du Lac, northern Saskatchewan?
No, Kanayisik, it's near Alberta.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a tremendous, I think, Craig, further to your question is that the things that the Native Americans have done well is they've created a brand, the Native American brand. And I think all of the speakers talked about the support systems, the mechanisms, both at the tribal level, right up to the federal level. So I think this is where, Sean and others, we'd have to get organized in terms of this branding. I think the brand is I think vital to competing and marketing the indigenous foods, America, Canada, and indeed around the world. So, but it's the right trajectory for sure. And I think you folks have really underscored a blueprint that it can be done, is being done. And it's very, very exciting.
Also for Fond du Lac, I think I maybe had referenced Fond du Lac in my presentation. That's Fond du Lac tribe is by Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay, so we have a Fond du Lac in northern Canada. It's the furthest northern flying community in Canada, in Saskatchewan. So maybe some relations there. We'll see.
And it's just French for bottom of the lake. And I will say, because I have been up, I went with the State Department one time to up to Winnipeg and met with folks there, and it's just there. It doesn't seem to be a comparative organization to the Intertribal Agriculture Council that's able to be that umbrella for the American Indian Foods Program and the trademark, and it's just the connection. And we do have quite a few of Canadian folks that come down to our different meetings, but it is tough. It's hard enough for us to stay up to date on all of the U.S. federal and the state programs and laws and policies, and then you have to have a whole nother set of understanding of then when you go to Canada, and it's the programs, the laws, everything is different.
Yeah. Daniel, I think this opens up the whole area of policy and what we need to do in terms of research on policy in terms of international trade. We do have NAFTA. And back to this intertribal trade, I think there are opportunities on this north-south corridor. But boy, if we could start doing that work, it could start to open up the gateways and the pathways for this expanding the markets and starting to literally, pun intended, growing new opportunities.
And I'll be in Montreal with Latasha next week. And, you know, I'm not an expert on it, but I do know that, I do know that there's some other authority that's there, some of our tribes of the Jay Treaty. And we've got tribes on both sides of the border. One of the examples, I've spent a lot of time up in Blackfeet country. Blood Tribe is right on the Canadian side. It's the same people. It's just separated by a border. And there may be opportunities to look at that expansion of trade opportunities through some partnerships there.
Perfect. Great.
I think I'm conscious of the time here, folks, and you know, I really want to thank all of the presenters again, Zach, Brittany, and Cindy, and Dan, and of course Letitia. And although Tommy couldn't come today, she was presenting at the last session that we held with you all. And so thank you all very, very much. A very interesting journey as we learn about each other. And we'll be most interested to hear how the American Indian Foods group does in the Montreal trade show coming up, because that'll be a pretty interesting market foray for you folks. So thank you all very much. And we'll certainly circulate this around to those who attended today. And thank you very much.